Okay, 5 o'clock and we have a quorum, so we'll call this meeting to order. And Kelly's gonna correct me every time I get something wrong, but that's okay. Call to order and roll call.
Here.
John Fresca,
Here.
Scott Walker,
I'm here.
Becky Kimball.
Here.
Jeff Costeca,
Here.
no sign of Tim Caldwell yet. Linda McIntyre, no sign of Linda yet. Brandon Maxwell, no sign of him yet. Dave Nakagawara is here
Present.
and Debbie Yankee is here, so we have a quorum. Thank you.
You forgot somebody.
Did you say Jeff? I did say Jeff Costeca. I checked him.
Well, did you say John?
I did.
Okay.
Why did you go through it again?
No, could I have some water? Okay. Do you need some water? I think.
Is that-
Okay, so,
Is that Jeff way down at the end of the table?
yes, it is.
It's me, for your first meeting,
Well, you're about this big on my screen.
not much bigger in real life. Well, I'm trying to get in a position where I can see everybody, not be in the corner.
Okay, let's go ahead here. First on the agenda, it says introductions. We don't have anybody to, we need to introduce our new person.
So we, as an agency, said goodbye to Savannah. Savannah moved over to Jefferson Healthcare, so we're very excited about her next adventure. And we have a new employee, Anna, and Anna's here. We're so excited. Anna started last week. Yes, so
Into the
This is
deep
her-
end, are you?
first meeting, and she'll be working with Kelly, and we'll be back up to Kelly running public meetings, so we're so excited that Anna's here.
Welcome. Thank you. We're happy to meet you. Okay, then we will move on to public comment. Is there any public comment submitted in writing or, oh, there's Linda. Linda McIntyre is also present.
There's no written public comment and there is one person online.
You wanna, let's see, I've forgotten what the words are. Are they,
They can raise their hand. if
Okay,
they wish.
and how do we tell them? Okay, to provide public comment, person who is online, press *9 to raise your hand and press *6 to unmute. Linda's getting odd feedback.
They're not raising their hands, so.
Okay, so we have no public comment. Do you want to address Linda's?
Something's in the chat.
Yeah, that's Linda's hand.
Oh.
I'm not
Li-
sure what she's getting weird.
Linda, do you have AV Capture open or just the Zoom link?
If they're both open, you definitely get feedback. I have done that.
You might have to reply to her. She might not be able to hear it.
Oh, wow, interesting. Okay, are we gonna just go ahead and?
Yeah.
Okay, then we will move on here. We have no public comments, so we're going to address the consent agenda. We have approval of the July 3rd, 2024 minutes. Are there any changes or corrections to the minutes? I'm seeing a whole lot of no heads nodding, okay. And like I said earlier, the only thing I have to say about the minutes is there was a whole lot of discussion ensued and a lot of no action taken. But other than that, would anyone like to move to approve the consent agenda?
Also move.
Okay, one second.
Second.
Okay, John moves. Becky seconds. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Heads?
Aye.
Favor? Aye. Okay, great. We have approved the consent agenda. JTA board update. Okay, John Nowak.
Hi, everyone. So in our last meeting, a lot of the meeting was really focused on some important reports that we had that I think you guys are probably aware of as well. So we had an update from Left Turn, Right Turn to kind of review the work that they're doing, the scope of it. And it was before they had a lot of the individual meetings. So I'm sure we'll get some updated information in the future, but it was really great to hear from them, kind of hear a little bit about their plan. We also heard from Peak Sustainability about the climate action plan and kind of where they are, and got a little preview in terms of the work that they've completed so far. And I think that seemed very encouraging. And I just think those are two really kind of important initiatives that are taking place for Jefferson Transit right now. We did approve the transit development plan at the meeting, which I'm sure you guys have all had a chance to look at. And then there was a change to the policy around bicycles and other recreational equipment on the buses, and it primarily just made it easier for people with electric bikes to be able to use those with transit. And we did kind of dispense with the usual manager reports, just in terms of time. There was a lot of information contained in those reports that we had covered, so we just basically read those individual reports. And Nicole, I don't know if there's anything else you want to add to that, but I thought it was a really good meeting, because I think it really set us up to understand the direction where we're moving in the next year or so.
Any questions for John? Do you have anything to add, Nicole?
I have nothing to add.
It's a great meeting.
Yes, it was, and I really appreciate the update to the bicycle policy, particularly for electric bikes and for other sorts of recreational wheeled vehicles that haven't had an opportunity to be considered. So and I had that further down here saying, can we talk about that? But John just did, so thank you very much. Okay, well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. No questions? Okay. We're going to move on. New agenda items. Anybody have any new agenda items that they would like to add to the agenda to discuss later? Anybody up on screen have an agenda item they would like to include that is not on the agenda? I don't see any. Okay. I was going to ask to add the bicycle and recreational equipment update from the last meeting, but John just beat me to it. So never mind. Okay, no new agenda items. We're going to move on to unfinished business. And public outreach update, I think is probably going to be.
Yes. So in your packets, there was my little pages that I put together for the meetings. And
You want to
we're
project
gonna
those or just talk about them?
I can just talk about them, because
Okay.
hopefully everybody read their packet with your meeting.
Of course we do.
There's a couple printed packets down there. So social media following, we're still tracking that. We have had good growth in following on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. They also have growth, which is good. We have not done any paid ads or boosting ads on Instagram, Twitter, or LinkedIn. So those ones haven't grown as much, but that's something that we're going to continue working on and continue to gain more followers throughout 2025. Our QR code scans. This is very interesting to track. Our rider alert ones have jumped up to 122 scans, which is kind of cool. So these are just flyers that we have in our shelters, and sometimes at events we have flyers that have that QR code. So that's a pretty good amount of people that are scanning those. And then this group asked me to track the rider alert subscriptions. So I've been tracking those, and to date we have 165 subscribers. And this is one where in March we switched to the new rider alert system. So we had to notify everyone and ask them to re-sign up and kind of start from scratch. So we're trying to get that growing, and we're working on ways to get more subscribers to that as well. And currently I can't track who signed up for public meeting subscriptions versus rider alerts, but hopefully in the future we can do that.
Great.
So transit is why. I'm not sure if any of you have seen this out and about. I've done a couple social media posts on it. This is a campaign that WISTA is working on, and WISTA is the Washington State Transit Association. So this campaign is dedicated to showcasing the vital role public transit throughout Washington State. It's trying to highlight transit connections to people and jobs, and why it's such an essential service and why people use transit, why they ride transit. So all the transit agencies in Washington are working on this campaign, and so you might see this around at other agencies or around other communities. So we've been posting some, you'll see it on our social media if you have social media. And we're trying to get engagement from people. We did one paid ad and we asked them like, why do you ride transit? And I got 5 good comments from people, so we're getting some engagement. Good. So we'll continue to work on this campaign. And if you want to learn more about Transit is Why, you can go to transitiswhy.com and there's more information.
Oh, cool. Why.com?
Transitiswhy.com.
Thank you.
So we had our farmer's market, July 20th was the last farmer's market. And then the Jeffco Fair in August. We had our little tent set up there in the bus. I don't know if any of you guys made it to the fair.
We sat the booth.
Yeah, nice. And then Nicole tabled at the All County Picnic in August as well. And upcoming wooden boat is coming up, so that's a huge event that we're gonna be doing coming this week. And we have open house for the climate action plan and the comprehensive operational analysis. There's an in-person open house on September 17th. And what they're doing is 2 different presentations. So one, I think at 3:45 and one closer to 6:30. So that way we can try to get people who work or don't work or work different shifts. And then there's a virtual open house on September 23rd for those that can't make the in-house.
Is that at the Legion? The
Yeah,
in-person
at
at
the
the Legion?
And we have flyers up, information's on our website, and I'm not sure if an email went out to Tag about the open house. Not.
I know I've got it on my calendar, right?
Okay,
We might wanna we'll send out.
You
the
might want to remind
flyer.
us.
yeah,
But we're excited about this opportunity to have peak sustainability and left turn, right turn doing a joint event, so we don't want engagement fatigue, I think is how they put it. But also there's some overlap between the 2 plans
Yeah.
as far as, how do we get more folks on the bus, riding the bus, that will feed into the climate action plan, but also the operational analysis. So we're really excited about that, and we decided to mimic a little of what the city had done with their comp plan work, a month or so ago. So the both sessions will be the exact same information, but we're having it at 2 different times. We're also making it a kid-friendly event, so family-friendly, so you can bring children, and Sarah is gonna handle children activities. Not my strength, but Sarah's good at it, she has one. She's better equipped to handle children than I am. But we're really excited, so we're gearing up to kind of have a little bit more of a push to kind of get the word out that it'll be just a good opportunity to hear about both projects at the same time.
Great.
And what time is that on the 17th?
On the 17th, the Legion Hall will be open starting at about 3:30. We'll have our first presentation at 3:45. That aligns with the bus schedule, because we're gonna encourage folks to ride the bus. And then at 6:15, which will also align with the bus schedule.
Great.
So they should last about an hour or so, and we will have tables and just kind of some presentation materials.
You have all the volunteers you need?
Yeah, well, we may ask for Tag to host a table during the event. So if anyone is interested, we're kind of getting back into the swing of things. Kelly is back. I was off last week, I'm back, so you'll start to get some more emails from us, kind of as we kind of get back into the swing of things. But yeah, the consultants kind of posed that idea yesterday. What do you think about hosting a table, and maybe having some Tag folks kind of man that table if possible.
I would love to do it. I'll be coming home from Wisconsin that day.
Oh, so maybe not, but
that I think like 8 o'clock at night. I
Oh.
would love. if
What is it with Wisconsin? My husband's gonna be in Wisconsin.
We're
that day.
drinking beer.
You taking turns? Not enough beer for all of you at the same
Yeah.
time?
So we'll send out information, but we will have the virtual,
Okay,
Cool.
so that one,
but I like the table.
Yeah.
You know, I like to do that. I like to give people
Yeah.
information, so.
Okay,
Well, I've got that blocked off, so I can certainly
oh, very good.
see at the table, yeah.
I love it.
okay.
Right, and I'll send the flyer out to all the tag members tomorrow, just with all the information, so you guys have it, and we can let you know if you have any questions.
Okay.
All right, and this is the last part of the outreach update. I like to show you kind of some of the social media posts that we do. It's very interesting which posts get how much engagement, like usually, meeting notices don't get very much engagement, which is kind of sad. But I get excited when we get over 20 likes or loves on a post because it's, you know, like, hey, they like this post. So one of the posts that I did about the wash bay cover, and I tried to do a little video for my first video posting, and I thought that was very interesting. And the bus rodeo post that one got a lot of engagement, so I will keep plugging away and try to think of interesting posts so that we get more engagement.
Great.
But we have had lots of engagement and lots of people sharing our posts, which is really good, so.
John.
Yes. John,
Just Kelly, appreciate all of your work and just wanted to remind people, one thing that I've started doing is anytime I see a transit post, I reshare it and like it and reshare it. And I think just if all of us do that, I think it'll tend to generate more interest. And if you're on Facebook, it's a pretty simple thing to do that may drive a little bit more engagement and may ultimately lead to increased ridership. So I just would encourage you guys to do that.
I agree. If I had friends on Facebook, I would share it, but I don't have friends on Facebook. I have Facebook and I follow lots of other people, but I don't have anybody to share with.
So Kelly, how do I get it on Nextdoor? And stop the comments, but how do I get,
So we don't have an Nextdoor account. It is something that
I could do it,
we've
but I don't
heard
have.
and people have asked us about, but starting a new platform is a lot because with every platform you have to manage the platform, the posts and the comments and responding to people. So I don't know if right now that's something that we want to do, but maybe in the future.
Could
we want
I
to be
could
on Nextdoor.
copy a post, couldn't I, from Facebook?
You could
Sure.
copy the text and like,
The
if you
image.
want to from your personal, say, hey, Jefferson Transit is doing this if you want
Right,
to.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, or send people to our website.
Yeah.
For information from there, just link them to our website, yeah.
okay.
And
I'll do
then
that.
maybe in the future, we will have Nextdoor account, I'm not
I
sure.
think when we had done a little bit of research on Nextdoor, it was expensive to have a business.
Really?
Like, yeah.
Oh, for
like,
business.
For a
Oh.
business.
Yeah.
Like it's free for
Right.
everyone else, but for a business, it was a little bit cost prohibitive.
Yeah, I'd have to look.
But we can look at it again.
Cause I think government agencies might be able to get free accounts, but I haven't looked at it in a while.
Can you, I was just playing around on Facebook, can you? Says you can copy, do you know if you copy a Facebook post, could you paste it
Yes.
into Nextdoor and it actually work?
Oh, I don't know.
I
that.
think it only copies the text, it
It'll
won't
only
take the whole
copy.
post in the picture.
Okay, so we kind of.
Yeah, cause they're
But you can-
completely separate platforms.
You can
so-
copy the picture and put it elsewhere.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
have to like download the picture and save it on your phone or your computer and then repost the picture in the text, so.
Yeah,
Or just
Right,
copy and
just
paste it.
does.
I mean, you don't
Yeah.
have to save it, but yeah.
it's possible, I think.
It's
Yeah,
possible,
possibly.
maybe a little more work
Yeah.
than just sharing it on your Facebook.
Anything that gets people on the bus works for me.
Yes,
Is that the end of the public outreach update?
yes.
Okay, we're going to move on. If there are no comments up on the screen, we're gonna move on to tag member bus riding report out. Uh-oh, Scott's yawning. Does anyone up on screen have a report out for bus riding? They all start looking away.
Yeah.
Okay, anybody in the room? John, you have a report out.
Well, yes, I had a good adventure with the number 11 shuttle. Last week, I've been going down to the the first 2 times I went down to the Port Townsend Foot and Ankle Podiatry and shoe store, I used Dial-O-Net, and when because I had scheduled appointments, and I feel more comfortable when I have a scheduled appointment using the Dial-O-Net, but when I got the word that my new shoes were ready, they just said, come down in the afternoon and we'll make sure that they fit right and everything. So I thought, this is a good chance to use the number 11. So I looked at, and the other thing that I was dealing with was I haven't, well, now I have, but up till that point, I had not crossed 20 since before COVID and also before the roundabout. And I was still hesitant about that. So I looked at it, I thought, well, if I catch the A shuttle and go to the parking ride and then continue on the A, I can get off on the other side of the road. But when I got over to the parking ride, I didn't realize that at that point, the A became the B. And when it got to 20, it turned at Kearney. And initially I could have just gotten off and Chase Bank and crossed there, but I thought, I'm just gonna stay on. And so I rode on around and came back to the parking ride, and then when it came to the A again, I got off at Gateway Park. And took it, but then when I was finished with getting my shoes and everything, I thought, gee, I'm down here by the co-op. I had to go pick something up at the co-op. So that's when I wound up crossing 20, and it went well. I wasn't
At the new roundabout?
Yeah, no, I didn't cross at the roundabout. I crossed at there by Penny Saver, and the lights worked well. And,
But you hit the push button.
yeah,
I like those lights, they really help a lot.
Makes a big difference.
yeah, it was a good experience. And so I did a little bit of shopping, and then went to the Kearney stop and went on back home.
Good.
That was a good adventure. My upcoming adventure that I'll just give a quick thing on. Well, since I'm on the board of DASH and of the Accessible Community Advisory Committee, we were instrumental in the bookmobile getting our grant for a chairlift for the bookmobile. And I had told them, I say, when you get it installed, I'd like to test it for you. And got the word that they've got now have a ramp. And when I looked at their schedule, I saw that they're going to be during the week they're at the Quilcene Community Center in the afternoon. So I'm going to catch the number 1 and go down to the community center and it works out. That'll give me plenty of time to test the ramp and just take a look at the bookmobile. And then by that time, the bus coming back from Brennan will pick me up and take me back to Port Townsend.
Cool. And it worked well.
Well, I'm gonna do that this coming
Oh,
Tuesday.
you haven't done it yet.
I haven't done it yet.
You'll report out next time.
Yeah, so, but I'm expecting a good experience.
Of course, it's transit. Yes. Anyone, you have a transit
Yeah.
experience?
Myself, my wife and baby rode the bus on Saturday. We were downtown, got hot and tired, and we were sitting at the fountain, like resting before we walked up, and I go, hey, the bus is pulling, let's hop on it. We rode it to the courthouse park and got off and went really well.
Yep.
So it's great.
Great.
Very good.
I see anybody up on the screen come up with the transit story yet? I see Jeff has his hand up.
Dave.
Oh, I'm sorry, Dave.
Yeah, it's okay.
Shame on me.
just want to put in a plug for the 11A and B. This time of year, this particular weekend, my workplace is, a lot of parking spaces are occupied by tents and boats and stuff. So this morning I took the, I think it was the 11A, but it reduces, it takes away maybe the 5 minutes of my commute that I don't like the most, because it involved, you know, a little bit of traffic, roundabout, deer and all that kind of stuff and parking. So for that reason also, I'll be probably leaving this meeting just a tad bit early so I can take
The bus.
the bus back to the park and ride. But anyway, it's really spectacular for special events and ferry and all that kind of stuff. So
Yes. Yes, it
one of my
really is.
favorite routes.
Thank you.
Yeah, I plan to be using it to go down to the Wind Boat Show. And, oh, another thing, I meant to say, to give a plug for hopefully everybody has seen or already done the active transit survey that the city's doing. That's an important thing.
There, that gentleman right there, in
I
charge of it.
joined you on the DASH meeting this.
Yeah, right, oh, yeah, right,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, glad you took it.
yeah,
that's-
yeah, and so that's good. And
I have one quick transit update for us. We rode the bus to lunch downtown on Fridays. And one of our fellow riders took a survey from you, Jeff, who happened to be walking by putting up flyers. And she was actually from Port Ludlow and was totally supportive of transit, was really happy to put up something because you were doing for the survey. So she was going to put up the flyer about the survey. And we also talked to several people on the bus who were frequent users. And we talked to the owner of a restaurant we'd visit downtown who did not know JTA was zero fare and had many people complain about parking on Thursday evenings. I said, well, tell them to park at the park and ride and take the shuttle. And he had no clue. So somehow we need to get little 11 schedules into the restaurants in downtown and uptown, because people can park at the park and ride and ride the bus, and it works out really well. So that's about all I have to offer, other than it would be really nice to put something up. We got something up there. Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Linda, please go ahead.
Hi, I recently had to rent a pickup and I was excited to take the bus back to my house, and I learned that on Sunday there
We have
was
no transit.
That's right. So somebody new to the board, I learned that on Sunday. So I had a nice walk back to Port Townsend, but it was a surprise. And I was thinking about what Debbie was saying just now. It kind of links back to some of the conversation we had in July, which is kind of education and outreach. How, you know, rather than just flyers,
Right.
what could we do actively to, you know, get people on a sample ride or something like that, so they would be able to tell people that came into their businesses about how to ride transit, and maybe use some of those third-party apps too to improve their access to transit rather than having to have a hard pamphlet.
Well, some of us are old enough that we need to have a hard pamphlet because we don't know how to use the third-party apps. But other than that.
Well, I was thinking though that it would be, it's not like an either or, it's both, right?
Yes.
That, you know, everybody
Yes.
gets to choose the thing that works best for them.
Nicole, can I
Thank you.
ask?
Pardon me?
I just wanted to ask Nicole a question about the surveys.
Okay.
Did we ever get them into the bus shelters?
Mhm.
Okay, good, all right.
Yeah.
Okay, we're,
I kind of like what Linda was saying about, like a travel training event.
Mhm.
And someone else from the community suggested that as well. And so, again, I mentioned we're kind of all just back from being off, but I had sent something to Sarah and to Kelly about, let's maybe try to work with this individual and maybe get something going in late September or early October. So that might give us a little bit of planning time for maybe a travel training event. And
well, and Linda mentioned for school kids to learn how to do it, and I don't have a clue, but those are the people that, you know, can
Mhm.
know how to use their phone, know that.
yeah, or yeah.
I would love to have a training event for school kids.
Yeah, so we'll we'll brainstorm on that and think more on that, but that is a really good idea.
Yes, it is. Okay, but we're running a little late already, so,
May I ask a quick question on
go ahead.
how
sir.
to influence ridership? Is there a good reason or requirement where we say zero fare versus free?
Because you're already paying
You're
for it.
paying your taxes.
I had a feeling there.
You're already, that's why.
But I will say, I don't think probably some people don't understand what zero fare means.
Have you been talking to Commissioner Brotherton?
No.
He's passionate about.
He does
this.
not understand what zero fare means.
He wants it also to be
Yeah.
fare free, but as an industry, agencies have been saying zero fare because saying that it's free implies that folks haven't paid for it, and
We've all paid for
what
it.
about, yeah, everyone's paid for
Yeah.
it, so kind of as an industry, we've adopted zero fare instead of
Yeah,
fare free.
There are those who say free and cheap won't hurt you or anything, but zero fare is the industry's preference.
I get it.
Okay, anything
the-
else on this one? Go ahead, Scott.
I'm glad you brought that up, Jeff, and I have been unhappy with zero fare as a statement myself. I think it's, yes, we understand that it's about people paying, we've already paying for our transit, but it's confusing for everyone else, and that's the problem. It needs to be, I think it needs to be simple and just say it's fare free. Zero fare is a little confusing. And yes, there's details behind it in the fine print, but I don't think it does us any good to have it as a statement. Anyway, I've said that before.
Thank you, Scott. We appreciate your comment. But Nicole's the only one that can change it, so talk to her. Okay, we're gonna move on here. Website project update. We get a staff update on the website project.
Yes, that we need. So we are moving right along on our new website project, and today Civic Plus met with staff and they went over a reveal meeting with us. So they showed us what the website basically is going to look like, and they went over the content that they migrated over from our old website. So we got to see functionality of it, and we're going to work with them on some of the items. And then the exciting part is, I don't have a date yet, but we'll be sending out a link to the production site to the tag group and the board and some other stakeholders to review the website before it goes live so that we can get feedback and suggestions from all of you guys. So I will keep you all posted. Like I said, I don't know the date yet, but it will be coming very soon.
Great.
And then we have staff training in September to learn how to use the new platform, which is very exciting. And October 30th is the website launch, so we're getting closer.
Great. And then we can start to talk about some of the new functionalities that you will have that you've not been able to do on the old website.
Yes.
Wonderful. Any
Wait,
questions? Go ahead.
Which reminds me, there used to be a schedule that showed how to link to the Bremerton or the Bainbridge Ferry on the website. I couldn't find it on there anymore.
Okay, I can look into that and see, because when we migrated, we updated some of the pages, and I think we only kept 2 connection schedules on there, so.
Yeah, it made it easy to figure out the timing on because it showed the ferry schedule as well as the Kitsap transit bus that you link to
Mhm.
and stuff, and because when they were, with the problem with the Kitsap fast ferries, I thought, well, maybe I could see if that option will work for me.
But the information wasn't there.
Yeah,
So to get from where to where, Port Townsend to
Bainbridge Ferry.
Bainbridge?
yeah, so I could get over to Seattle for an appointment.
Okay, so there is, if you go under, Robinson schedules. And then you click on connections, and then you scroll down, there's all of our pamphlets that we put together with, so there's, for instance, one that says Port Townsend to SeaTac. but that really just gets you to the Big Rich Ferry. So it shows the connections time between.
Yeah, that's the one that I was using.
Okay, I can, after this, I can show you where
Okay,
that link is.
good. Well, that's good to know. Yeah.
Okay, anything further on that subject? Website project update? No hands, it's good. Okay, we're going to move on then to new business. And new business starts with the climate action plan update. And staff is going to educate us about the climate action plan.
So Peak Sustainability came and spoke to the board at the last board meeting. Kelly included a link so that you could watch that update. Did everyone have a chance to watch the update?
Yes.
You didn't know, okay.
Yep.
So I encourage you to go back and watch the update because I think it was a really good conversation. You know, kind of the questions that they posed and then the conversation that they had with the board. I don't want to spend a lot of time in this meeting talking about it, but you know, we're to the point in that project where we're starting to work on goals, actions, and strategies. And so they were kind of asking the board for some feedback as far as some priorities and some goals. The board provided some feedback as far as kind of rearranging some of the goals.
Which set of priorities was higher?
Yeah. So we're kind of digging into the meat of the project, which is really exciting. And staff and myself have been working with Peak to kind of really define some of the areas that Jefferson Transit needs to be working on as far as in the climate action plan. So it's getting exciting. But I encourage you to go watch it because I think if you watch it, it will do a much better job than I'm doing, kind of giving you an overview. So watch it. Let me know if you have any questions or if it raises any flags for you. I'm happy to reach out to Peak to get any questions answered. But again, they'll be at the open house on the 17th. But I think it gives a good kind of synopsis of where we are in the project.
One thing I would ask is the Peak staff talked about a slide packet or a slide deck that they were going to provide to the authority board to be able to look at the things that had been presented, but it was never somewhere that we could look at.
Oh,
They presented it after the packet went out, so it will be attached to the minutes of the next board meeting.
Okay, but we can't see it until
I
then.
can send that to all of you guys.
I would appreciate, because I found it to be really a very helpful collection of information. Particularly when you're listening to the discussion, you can actually make your comments on your.
Okay,
packet.
very good.
So I think it would be really nice to have that because it's very helpful, very good information. Anything further on that one? It's well worth watching the meeting. Okay, quiet, no hands, we move on. Comprehensive operational analysis project, another staff update.
So we're so excited. We officially launched this project in July. Right now, we're slated to have that project completed hopefully by the board meeting in June of 25. So it's about a year-long project. We went with a group called Left Turn, Right Turn. They're a group out of Toronto. 2 weeks ago, I'm losing track of time. I think it was like 2 weeks ago, they came out for what they called their sprint. And that's where four members of the group came out and they rode all of our routes. They collected data, such as like on-time performance, you know, who was boarding the bus and where they were boarding the bus and where people were getting off. And they were really getting a good understanding of, you know, what our system is, who's utilizing our system, you know, just really getting comfortable with Jefferson Transit. They were also kind of taking a deep dive into our dial-a-ride operations, what's dispatch doing, you know, what are the drivers saying, you know, what are the managers saying, you know, what are our thoughts. They came and introduced themselves to the board. I thought that was great. So it was a really good intensive week of just having them here and getting a better understanding of Jefferson Transit. And they are so smart. And you know, they're all engineers. So we would be talking and I could just see them processing and thinking on what we were saying, and it was, I thought it was pretty cool, just the whole week.
They are as excited as we are. It was,
Yeah.
it's just like a really, we're in a good place and they get what we're looking, what do we do well, what do we not do well?
And they were asking some really good questions of us that, you know, made me think that they didn't come out and say, well, why are you doing that? But more like, help us understand. So we're really excited about that week. They'll be back, two members will come back for the September 17th open house. So we're excited about that. We're also doing on the 17th, Peak and Left Turn, Right Turn will be meeting with a class at Fort Townsend High School. I think it's the AP Environmental Studies class. Because we had tried to do a youth focus group earlier in the year and that it failed miserably I mean, it is what it is. It was a virtual event and they were all
No one
bots.
showed up.
So like it didn't go well. So then we had the idea, well, let's like hijack a class and then we have a captive audience and they will have to watch this. And the teacher, one of the teachers was really on board for that. So we'll be talking to a class about how Peak came up with greenhouse gas emissions and the calculations and all of that. And we'll also be talking about ridership. So we're excited about that and they'll be helping us with that. So one of their first milestones in that project is developing a report called the Current State Report. So they're really kind of laying out what is Jefferson Transit's current state and, you know, where are we even starting from? And we're looking at maybe seeing that document being produced, I want to say by mid-October. Don't hold me to that because I don't have my information in front of me, but that sounds about right. It's about mid-October. So just excited about that project and just really kind of getting started and you know, thinking about Jefferson Transit and what are we doing well, where can we improve? And of course, they're looking for feedback, especially at the open house.
So I can add, they had a stakeholders group.
Oh, I didn't even get there.
Yes.
Yeah, oh about that. We had a stakeholder group.
So they're from Toronto, so that explains why they were so polite, but they were really exactly what you're saying, like thinking, not trying to push any kind of agenda. They really, best group of consultants I've ever seen.
So we had a stakeholder group on Thursday and we had tag members, so Dave joined us, thank you so much, Becky was there.
Dave was there as well?
Yeah, I said Dave
Yeah.
and Becky, who
Uh-huh.
else was there? There was another tag person, wasn't there?
Wasn't.
Who's a writer?
John was there, but you were on screen, yes.
And there was a frequent writer.
We had a writer who was there, we had
Blogger.
someone from Bayside Housing, Heather was there. We had two folks from Port Townsend School District, so we had Jennifer there and Shelby manages she's the athletic director. And Jennifer sits on the board.
Mhm.
And then we had two individuals from the hospital that were there. One is a writer, and I'm so glad that she was able to join us. And we had someone, who else do we have?
I think that's.
So was that it? Okay.
That's it, but I mean, they
I
were
don't wanna miss anyone.
open to all the different special interests, really.
Yeah,
So, you know, Bayside Housing and people from the hospital and, yeah, it was a good meeting.
Is this process, the comprehensive operational analysis, what will help you decide whether we can expand service to places like Ludlow and
yes, so we
Etc.
are.
Cape
this
George,
will help
Talent?
us make decisions based on fact. And
That would be nice.
yes,
We
so
like that.
yeah, we're excited for some of their recommendations. And they didn't give away anything, so they weren't
Yeah.
telling us
They're taking it all
anything,
in.
they were just really kind of getting to know us, so. That was exciting.
That's very good news.
I kind of want to keep us moving because I want to make sure we get to eat.
Yeah, well, we're up to C for a 2025 schedule review. That's just our meetings for next year. If
We wanted to bring this up, if you don't mind. We wanted to bring this up
you
because
told me you wanted to keep moving.
I know, but it's just important to talk about because we have some funky meeting times for 2025. And at our next meeting, we'll be approving our meeting schedule. But the first meeting falls on January 1st, and that won't work for us or for you. No one wants to be here on January 1st. And then also we have low attendance this year at our meeting right before the 4th of July. And next year, the meeting falls on
The second.
July 2nd. And so and then the September 3rd meeting is that the right after Labor Day?
I don't know what day it is next year.
Anyway,
I
now's
think so.
our
I think
opportunity to look and see if we want to propose
different dates.
some different dates. Obviously, we'll need to propose a different date for the January meeting. But also, if we feel like attendance is gonna be low at one of these meetings, it may make sense to either move it earlier or
Later.
a week later so that, folks can, so we have a better shot of having the group here.
Well, we probably should pay attention to the September one because we don't want to move it into Wooden Boat.
Labor Day's on the first next year.
Labor Day's on the first. So, I mean, we have good attendance here now,
Right,
but
That one could be okay.
the
okay.
September 3rd one, okay.
Yeah.
Yes,
What about independent? Is that okay with people up on the screen?
yes.
Okay, Independence Day week, what is? Anybody?
What day of the week is the 4th on, Jeff?
Friday.
Mm.
Wow, 4th.
It's gonna be a long fourth.
It's gonna be a long one.
What do you wanna do, move it or try it or? I don't go anywhere, I don't take vacation, I'm retired, so, anything's fine with me.
I think the second would be okay.
Is the second okay with folks up on the screen for July 2nd? John's giving us a thumbs up, right?
Yeah, I will most likely not be available on the 5th. So yeah, no, I'm not gonna take off a second.
Okay. And then the other choice is January. You don't want to meet on New Year's Day, really?
No,
What do you recommend in place of the first?
What day of the week is first?
So Wednesday, if you
Well,
I would propose that we move it to the 8th, which is the following week.
yeah, that sounds good.
Is that all right with everybody up on screen? I see some head nods, January 8th, okay.
Sounds good to me.
Okey doke.
I apparently have my child has an appointment on the 8th, so I will not be there, I'll have to be in Seattle, so.
I think that's a fair excuse.
I'm surprised we had something scheduled that far out.
Cause that's how hard it is.
It is.
Okay, does
Yeah.
that answer the ones you need to know?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, so we will get a corrected schedule here shortly.
And then we can vote on it at the next meeting.
Okay. Okay, the next one is engagement opportunity discussion.
And I think Kelly and I would like to just scratch that agenda item. We have things we wanted to talk about and now we do not. Looking at our calendars, I don't know that we have any other engagement opportunities for the remainder of the year. So unless the
I have
group,
an engagement complaint, but it's not time sensitive. I'll
okay,
talk to you next time.
okay. So if the group is fine with us moving past that one, we can get on to our brainstorming.
Yes, we're going to move on to E, which is brainstorming session on what should Jefferson Transit staff be doing to create a safer environment for all transit users? Is this related to something specific?
So we had I thought a good conversation at the stakeholder meeting with left turn, right
I'm
turn.
sorry, I missed that.
And so I wanted to bring that idea here to the group. So I wanted to hear from Kelly and I both thought we want to hear from the group. You know, we talk a lot. Actually, we want to hear from you. But safety came up as a big topic at that stakeholder group. And safety in terms of, is safety what's keeping people from thinking about riding transit? So before we dive into that question, there is just a few things I want to say. And the first would be that everyone has a different perception of what safety is, and how we walk through the world and move through the world really helps inform us on how safe we feel. So some individuals feel safe 99% of the time, and then some individuals feel safe maybe only 50% of the time, right? And it really, our background and just our society and our culture and how certain people are treated in our culture really kind of dictates what is safe. And I think safe is it can be kind of just a tricky
It's a loaded word.
conversation. It's a little bit loaded. So I wanted to start that the conversation with the idea that what is safe for one person doesn't necessarily mean someone else feels safe in that same environment. So second, anytime something is brought to Jefferson Transit staff's attention about a safety concern, we do react to that. We have video on all of our buses. We have supervisor on staff 6 days a week. We hold people accountable, riders accountable to the code of conduct. We issue codes of conduct, and we also exclude people from riding for any length of time. So it could be for a few days, it could be 1 day, it could be a week, it could be a month, it could be a year. Typically, if the police are called to one of our properties or a bus, and they are having to remove someone from our property, typically they are excluding them for a year. They're giving them a trespass for a year, and we don't really have much of a say about that. So I do want to say that Jefferson Transit does react to safety concerns. And I don't want to defend Jefferson Transit too much, because things happen on our buses, and we're not naive and we understand that. But I think it would be just a good idea to let's start talking about safety. And I don't think we'll have probably a resolution here, and I think we're fine with that. But I do want to hear from the group about, are there things we can be doing better? Is there something that as an agency we can be doing to maybe make individuals feel more comfortable on the bus? Love to open it up to you and hear your feedback.
Anybody? Go ahead, Dave.
Yes, I felt maybe I'm responsible for bringing up or discussing this particular subject at the stakeholder meeting. There was a pretty animated discussion that happened, and I think it came from perceptions of convenience or inconvenience in using the bus. It also we talked a little bit about what is preventing people from making that choice for transit to be the first choice, or at least on the top of the list when it comes to your transportation choices. And we're talking in context of children who are looking for transportation from after school, before school activities. There's a pretty animated discussion that popped up, and one statement that was made was that there's a perception amongst some kids that, you know, maybe it's not as safe. They might have heard that there was a drug deal going down on a particular route. And I think where I got a little bit animated in the discussion was that, you know, I think there was a statement made that, well, kids are going to use whatever excuse they want, you know, to get out of having to take the bus. And, you know, choose something else. And sometimes perception, there might be a negative reality in there. So those are the type of things that we have to overcome, I think, in order to be able to, make transit a viable choice for folks. So when it comes to some people who don't feel as safe, maybe if you're a kid or maybe you're a woman by yourself, whatever that may be, my level of safety or my perception of what's safe may be a little bit different, being, somebody who's ridden on Metro in Seattle or Valley Metro in Phoenix and seen fist fights and police being called out and all this kind of stuff. I might have a different level of tolerance for that kind of thing. So I think just the sensitivity to these types of perceptions, and know that perceptions, whether they be true or not, or based in reality or not, or maybe just be more based on hearsay, or maybe a personal experience that was just a one-off, they do have an effect on people's, reluctance, or maybe effect on people's choice making abilities, depending on those perceptions. So I don't want to monopolize the time, but that's kind of how this came up, I think.
Thank you.
Debbie, can
Go
I-
ahead, Becky.
So after that conversation, I spent some time reading about safety on transit in general nationally and what agencies can do about it. The number one things which you're already doing, which is trying to increase the number of people who are already on the bus and increase frequency. So studies show that if the buses come more frequently, for some reason, people feel safer. I suspect waiting for the bus is one of the concerns if you're there by yourself, right? If you're a 21-year-old woman, you may not want to stand at the bus shelter by yourself. And then the other thing is that we might be able to do something about it is it's still a class issue. So there's this idea that you're poor if you're on the bus, right? And that's just something that we generally have to override and flip it around and say, my carbon footprint's smaller than yours, Nana,
So there.
And I have plenty of money, but,
Yeah.
And I think one of those ways to do that is to enlist certain groups in town, like I did float this, but I haven't done it yet, like go to the AAUW and tell these ladies, let's take the shuttle downtown and have a glass of wine.
Normalize it.
Normalize
Normalize
it,
it.
exactly.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't want to insert myself until everybody else has spoken. John, go ahead, please.
Yeah, Dave, I wanted to reassure you, this actually also came up at the, when Left Turn, Right Turn did a presentation to the board, this topic of safety came up as well. And it was in the context of kids, again, why kids might not be riding the bus, but I don't think it's an isolated concern. And I do think it's something that we need to have, some thoughts about. This might be a controversial idea, but I wonder if we've ever talked to the Port Townsend Police about occasionally doing ride-ons on the bus, just to kind of have a occasional presence on the bus.
Officer friendly. Yes.
Yeah.
We have a new community office in town, get a brand new one.
Linda, go ahead, please.
Couple thoughts. I want safety. I wonder if that is. I was just thinking about safety in terms of how do we lower barriers to getting riders on transit? Kind of asking almost a broader question that safety is part of it, but there could be other issues that are similar. In some cases, maybe it's safety. In some cases, feeling our riders feeling welcome. Are there other risks? Really, what are the risks that riders are seeing that are causing those concerns? I like the idea of changing the perspective. Transit riders are climate warriors,
Mhm.
not
I like
an
that.
not an income type of issue, but this is something you choose to do because you care enough about the environment that you're willing to kind of inconvenience yourself a little bit and have to plan ahead on a trip. But I also going back to the idea that, Tracy, I think it was you that mentioned about going, saying, let's all get a group of friends together and say, let's take transit to go do a thing. Maybe it's to go to an event downtown or something like that, but take a group of friends with you, plan it, and get them on the bus the first time so they can take a look around, and instead of thinking about feeling unsafe, they can actually look around and see what it means. The other thing about the frequency issue, that's really that fear. I think part of that is that fear of being stranded. So as we're thinking about, because that comes up in transit quality of service for places like Transportation Research Board a lot. So what could Jefferson Transit do to minimize that concern that you could be left behind? So that might be a where's the next bus kind of thing. So there could be multiple ways to come at it. And I just think some good creative conversation is, I like where it's going.
I think Where's My Bus apps are gonna
Yeah.
help that a lot,
Yeah.
but we're not there quite yet. Any further? I just had a couple of quick comments. Kind of what Becky was talking about. I have money, but I ride the bus. We had a member of the authority board when I first started attending authority board meetings who assured us we needed to keep transit because it was for the poorest of the poor. And those were his exact words, is we have to keep transit because it's for the poorest of the poor. You don't see that in Europe, you don't see that in DC, everybody rides. And I don't understand that. And yet at the last transit authority board meeting, the driver who was on your board talked about he wouldn't let his kids on the bus because it's not safe. Well, when the driver has that perception, how do you overcome that with the riders? And you said, I feel safe on the bus, I feel safe on the ferry, I feel, on the shuttle. I don't know how we overcome that kind of misperception. So that's my comment. Go ahead, Dave.
I just had one really quick idea. I think what got me going in the stakeholders meeting is that I think we have really good representation of folks, potential bus riders or actual bus riders, which is great. And I really did appreciate the participation of, school board members and also, activities directors and some really key individuals. What was kind of bothering me a little bit is that we were making some statements as far as what kids have said and maybe what some of the perceptions are and so forth on their behalf. And I know that it worked very well when I worked for the city of Sequim, to have participation from, that population themselves. So I was wondering, I know that's not easy and it's easier said than done, but, if we've ever contemplated at least tag membership for a school age person.
I would love to have a school age person on the board if we could do that.
We have, and we have not been successful in recruiting.
Yeah, I know it's really
So,
hard. I know
If
it's really hard.
anyone knows of someone, like I would enthusiastically try to
Yeah.
get them and remove barriers to have them. So yeah, I think that's a great idea, Dave.
I would love to have school age, high school, or not middle school probably, but high school age members on the board. I think that would be wonderful.
I think I asked that question of students last year, and I can certainly do that again. It's a new school year, so there may be a different group.
Yeah, we have
Yeah.
access. We have a school board member that can ask for us. Thank you, John.
Yeah, I think it was just a thought that crossed my mind when we were starting to characterize what the potential ridership's opinions are without really having them there. So,
Yes, it would be helpful. Scott, go ahead.
I don't think safety is an issue that's keeping the majority of people from riding the bus. If you could address the safety issue somehow for those 4 or 5 people who make that an issue for keeping them on the bus, great, we get 4 or 5 more, maybe 7.
No,
Until,
Scott, yeah, I'd just like to pipe in there, in terms of my outreach that I've done with actual writers, and one of them being a coworker and one of them being a former coworker, it is actually something that enters their mind as women who are riding the bus, probably from a late night meeting or something like that, like the Squim route. For a significant number of our population, it's, even walking to your car in a dark parking lot at night, it's a consideration. It may not be for you, may not be for me, but it's something that I have real life experience with 2 members who are or 2 people who are full-fledged believers in transit who elect to take a different mode of transportation to work. So
if I may
I do
finish my
think it's
thought,
something,
Dave,
yeah, I don't think it's 4 or 5 people. I
Okay,
do
I'll give you
think
9.
it's something
Go
worth
ahead,
looking
Scott.
at.
If I may finish my thought, Dave.
Yeah. Go
We
ahead.
are not going to get significant increase in ridership as long as our local governments continue to subsidize driving by offering excessive amounts of parking everywhere with required policy. Yes, the city rescinded their off-street parking requirements. They have not yet instituted paid parking downtown, which would be an encouragement for the downtown workers to take transit, at least from the park and ride. And the county hasn't done anything yet on this, which the Transportation Lab will be addressing the county on this issue soon. But until we address parking, which makes driving more convenient than taking transit, we're not going to get significant increase. I mean, all of you drove today to that meeting. To the meeting you're sitting at, every one of you.
John didn't.
Who?
John Frasca?
Oh, okay, John, you take you got the prize, John. But the rest of you all drove. And why? Because there's plenty of parking out there and the bus doesn't work for you. That's
Okay.
all.
Spot on. People are gonna, I heard the examples of Europe, DC. That is a completely different environment than Port Townsend, where it's so inexpensive to own a car, to park a car, and the transit has higher frequency. So people are gonna do the most convenient thing for them and are highly influenced by money, right? Cost.
When you pay parking.
You're making my point. Thank
Zero
you.
fare. I don't know, it doesn't have a huge impact. Do we have the numbers to say like, well, this was the ridership before zero fare and post? Like, is that?
We're
significant?
at about 91% ridership of where we were in 2019.
Okay.
But COVID is the one that's.
Yeah, that
COVID.
changed transit
Yeah.
everywhere, yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I just gotta say, I totally disagree with that. I do think that it enters into the convenience issue, but when it comes to disregarding safety as a factor or perceptions of safety, you can change the economics of it, you can change the convenience of it. I will pay probably more than you are willing to pay for something that is both convenient and safe. So I do believe it has to be considered. I don't think it's just a parking issue.
So
It's more than one thing.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah, it's
there-
more than one thing. It's more than
Yeah.
one thing. There's no panacea to this all, but it's definitely a
A bunch of things.
factor that has to be brought into the equation.
Okay.
So is there something that Jefferson Transit staff can be doing now, like right away, that would help create either the perception of a safer environment or an actual safer environment? Has anyone seen or have any ideas or?
One thing that came to me is, I think you started out saying safety means something different to everyone,
Mhm.
but are we only talking about safety on the bus?
On the
Safety
bus
related to
or-
riding transit.
Right, because,
yeah.
you know, there's a person that works at the city in engineering and active transportation. I think there's a lot of people that wouldn't take the bus because they don't feel safe walking to the bus stop. We have very poor infrastructure, so I think a huge part of, I mean, at least wouldn't hurt having a continuous non-motorized route to the bus line.
Mhm.
Yeah, I remember a statistic from many years ago when they're talking about the transit was the safest means of transportation unless you had to walk very far to the bus stop.
Mhm.
And I don't think transit can solve that one.
No.
But you can work with the city, I mean, this is our comprehensive plan, so this is a time to apply pressure to the city to create a parking plan, a paid parking plan, which I think is also is gonna be on the agenda, and, you know, support whatever infrastructure policy comes up.
Well, perceptions of safety are as important as real safety, because they're what cause your behaviors.
We're discussing two different kinds of safety here. One is the safety of being able to walk comfortably along the roadways where there's cars right next to you, or the sidewalk is all broken up, or the crossing is too long for some people. And then the safety of, stranger danger. That's two different kinds of safety. So maybe there's a
But-
third and fourth, I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's a good point that Jeff brought up, though. There's kind of this overall set of factors that would go into somebody's decision whether or not they're going to take transit. So the ability to get to and from that stop certainly is a factor also. So as somebody else said, there's a lot of stuff here. And Nicole, going back to, your question with regards to what can you do? I think it's the continuation of the service, of communicating the services that we have and the policies that we have and all of that, just continuing to hammer that home, build new relationships through outreach and so forth. And inclusion of new voices, I think would be helpful. And I think it's just an encouragement to kind of keep on asking those questions, which I really do appreciate.
Okay,
When we do table and interact with the public, would it be helpful to ever have a survey to ask them about, do you feel safe on the bus? Do you feel safe waiting for the bus? Do you feel safe?
you could ask the question. Linda, go ahead.
I'm kind of circling back to Nicole's question about, what can Jefferson Transit do now to address these issues? One of the things I was thinking of as I was listening to folks talking would be maybe like looking at some of the things from Transportation Research Board or other trusted agencies and say, what are other agencies, rural transit agencies doing to increase safety across, the region or the country? Because, good ideas are always out there. There might be something that is relatively low-hanging fruit that could be added to this discussion, or at least it would inform different strategies where somebody tried something and it did or didn't work. Why not? But I like the idea of it going broader, because there are a lot of different barriers to riding transit, and rather than pinning it all on safety or pinning it all on access or pinning it all on other things, everybody's got their, since we've each got our own feelings about when we're safe. It might be a good idea to just kind of have that broader search and see if there's anything that might come out of it that would inform where we could go here.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Dave, did you have another comment?
I'll lower my hand.
Okay.
Oh, one last thing, just, what the city's now able to do, for active transportation in general, but also getting people to a continuous route to buses, or improved at least, is we passed TBD, Transportation Benefit District, so now we're gonna get $800,000 a year to put towards road maintenance, active transportation, traffic calming. So, level of traffic stress is like some jargon that you would say, this is
Right.
my perceived stress, walking, biking, rolling,
Mhm.
whether it's shared traffic or on a sidewalk or bike lane. And the other thing we have now is fee in lieu program, where people doing new construction for for years and years, it was essentially deferred requirement for sidewalk. We're now saying you need to do sidewalk, and we have a program where people pay a fee in lieu of building sidewalk that we can then take that money and fill in more critical gaps. So we have a lot to make up,
Mhm.
but we'd always encourage additional funding if
So we're fine.
help fill in our gaps, so.
I think you can do it.
I do too.
I really think there's so many good things here.
Okay, we are 15 minutes from the end here and we haven't, do we want any more brainstorming? Do you have enough for the moment? You want more?
I think so, and you know, after that stakeholder meeting, just the conversation really stayed with me. So if you leave here and you're still thinking about things and you have ideas or maybe something you didn't say that you wanted to, feel free to email Kelly or I. And we're happy to, I'll add it to the list of notes that I took. Because again, I don't think we're solving this problem tonight. But I do think as a group, if we're identifying that this might be a barrier for folks to even try riding transit, and if there's something that, you know, transit staff can be doing to kind of maybe ease some of that or change that perception, we're you know, happy and excited to do that. Cause I know that it's, you know, if something bad happens on a bus, every single person on that bus is gonna go tell 10 people
Yep.
what happened on a Jefferson Transit bus, and it spreads from there.
And it gets worse with every retelling.
Yeah, and you know, but honestly, we have had some things happen on the bus and we have reacted, I think, appropriately. But those things still happen, and those things can happen at Safeway
Right.
or you know, somewhere else, but they happen to happen on a bus. But
yeah.
So anyway, hopefully you feel comfortable just sharing, you know, like ideas. Like we're open to any and all ideas. So keep thinking on it, keep mulling it over, and if
My big one is where's my bus? I'm always afraid I'm gonna miss my
I
bus.
know.
And you're gonna do that, so it's all good. It's all good. It's gonna happen.
We're getting closer.
Yes.
It's getting closer.
Okay, we're gonna move on this and send any other comments you have to Kelly or
Nicole, yeah.
Okay, so end of brainstorm session. We have ridership report. Is someone gonna educate us about the ridership?
So I noticed that we forgot to include our ridership numbers in the packet. So sorry about that. I'm looking at the ridership numbers that were in the board packet. So if you wanna see the numbers that I'm talking about, you can feel free to go to the board packet. But ridership is continuing to tick upward. We're pretty excited about that. Again, our best performing route right now is the Kingston Express. We did see a slight dip in August, mainly because Kitsap Transit is having a little problem with their fast ferry. And so that really kind of drives home the point that most people who are riding the Kingston Express are riding it to then continue on to the fast ferry. So we know our friends at Kitsap Transit are working hard at rectifying that problem. So hopefully that isn't a long-term issue. Dial-A-Ride is really ticking up. And we're I think that staff in general wasn't fully prepared for the increase in the number of rides. We talked to the board about how we're paying a lot of overtime for Dial-A-Ride. So our budget is a little skewed because we didn't anticipate the growth that is happening. So yeah, Dial-A-Ride is really picking up, and that's great. And transit staff will be better prepared next year for our budget. But that's another area of big growth that we're seeing. Again, I said we are about 91% of the ridership numbers that we were in 2019. I would like that when we turn the calendar over to 2025 that we stop talking about 2019. I'm done, and I think we can just continue to do what we have been doing in the past, which is look 1 year prior and kind of compare those kinds of trends. So if come January we stop talking about 2019, you'll know why. We're just a little tired of it. Our Brennan numbers continue to kind of match what the 2019 numbers were, and that's really exciting. So overall ridership is doing well. I think some areas that are interesting, if you will, is I think our Kingston rider, some of our Paulsville riders have moved over to our Kingston group because our Paulsville ridership is a bit lower than what it had been in the past, and even what it had been last year. So 2024, we went 0 fare free on the Kingston Express, and that's really what helps kind of amplify that ridership. Also, our swim ridership is kind of lagging behind as well. And I don't really have a good reason for that other than possibly our commuters aren't commuting any longer. So that's kind of something that staff is looking at as well. JTalk is an area that Jefferson Transit staff will continue to work on in 2025, and that will be a bigger push for us in 25. As far as creating some surveys, really kind of trying to develop a few more relationships over on the West End. To try to boost some of those numbers, because
They're still really down.
they're pretty down. Doing better than last year, but pretty slow to rebound. So that's my spiel on ridership.
Well, thank you. Any questions on ridership for Nicole? Looks like everybody's okay with that. Okay. We did agenda planning already, didn't we? We picked dates. We did not plan agendas. We picked dates. What would you like to talk about for the November meeting?
Does this group have any ideas of topics that they would like to talk about in November?
Email them.
Feel free to email. We'll most likely be talking a bit about the budget. We will be, well, actually, when's the November meeting? November 6th. That'll be a little early for our budget talk.
Okay.
Because we won't have presented that full budget to the board yet, so we should probably not do that, but I think
You don't
we
want to
will
practice on us?
talk about probably some budget items, maybe some planning, project planning. But again, if this group would like to have a discussion about something, send it our way.
Will we have some of the data from right turn, left turn? In November?
Yeah, we should.
Yeah.
And talk about that.
Yeah.
You included in our packet this time, the cost allocation method.
We included that because we did not include that in the packet for the last tag meeting. So that was what Miranda presented at a
Okay.
meeting, but it hadn't ended up in your packet. So we included her presentation in there. So anyone who wasn't at the July meeting, if you have questions about the cost allocation model, happy to point you in Miranda's direction. So she can take a deep dive with you into what it all means.
It was very interesting to see what each route costs.
Yes.
And Scott had mentioned if there was some way that we could do it, what it costs per head, because you know how many people were on that route for that year. And actually go through and make the calculation as to what, people say, well, we need another run on Brennan. Well, Brennan's what, $600 per run approximately versus an extra shuttle run? Well,
So that gets into a whole big conversation as well, when you start thinking about what is our metric, and is it strictly ridership, or is it coverage, or what is an essential ride? And providing a value to someone who lives out in Quilcene could be just as important and have a bigger impact, because maybe they're not driving, and so reducing, but greenhouse gas emissions, but also thinking about our state conference that we had in July. We spent a lot of time talking about equity.
Yep.
And what it means to be a rural transit agency, and how ridership isn't just the key, but making sure that you're connecting people and, getting someone to a doctor's appointment who lives in that area is maybe just as important as providing additional service. So frequency versus coverage is a big hot topic. And there's value and pros and cons to each, so.
Well,
yes.
frequency versus coverage versus equity. It's actually at least a three-way concern because everybody pays the taxes.
Yeah.
And so but when you look at the cost per run, you really start to wonder how do you make it equitable? And increase ridership.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard.
Probably a lot to unpack, but what's the highest line items to run a bus for a line? Is it
Staff?
equipment, is it the staff, is it?
Labor.
Labor,
Mostly labor.
Mhm.
Labor to run the bus, to maintain the bus,
to drive.
Complex
to drive the bus,
system.
maintain the bus.
dispatching.
To pay for Amy,
Yeah, labor.
yeah, it's definitely labor.
Go ahead, Scott.
And I appreciate you bringing the point up that I made the last time, Debbie. Why wouldn't we want the data from what it's costing per capita annually for those runs? I mean, it just seems like one more data piece that you just plug into your program to come up with an answer on that one. And why ignore the data?
I don't think they're ignoring it.
Well,
I would like to see that calculation. I think it would be very interesting.
Okay,
I also asked that at our board meeting, and I think I was told that they're gonna work on that, so hopefully they'll have that for us.
Yes, I
Great.
think that would be very helpful.
great, thank you.
Just another data point that's pretty important in how you decide the future. Anything else on that topic? I don't see any hands.
Did.
I heard a voice.
I think that was a good.
Oh.
That was me talking to the dog, who's,
Oh, you were talking to the dog.
he's awake now. He's been asleep.
Okay. Okay, well, is there anything else for the good of the order?
You have to do the public
Yeah, I
comment.
was
Oh,
getting
yeah.
past that and we end with, is there any public comment that we have today? Is there anyone on there that would like to make a
There's
comment?
still someone online.
Okay, I will read the little thing at the beginning then. To provide public comment, please press *9 to raise your hand and press *6 to unmute person who is online, if you would like to make a public comment.
You're not raising their
No.
hand.
We have no public comments. Thank you very much. Are we now done? Okay, well, let's adjourn this meeting. Thank you very much, everyone, for attending. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.